I'd like to go ahead and call the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order for Tuesday, July 14th. And if we could all stand and join me for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First time in a couple months anyhow, now we have a full board. Welcome Christine, our newest board member. The mayor was just here and got her officially sworn in, so we're all good to go. We'll go ahead and do the roll.
Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here.
Ms. Lawyer. Here. Mr. Howe.
Here.
Ms. Rotoback. Here.
Okay, thank you. We have a full board. And going right to old business, we do have one item that was carried over, put on the table from last month. And I believe we're ready to hear it, so we're going to need to remove it from the table. So can I have a motion to remove that from the table?
So move.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Okay, can I roll?
Ms. Rotoback.
Yes.
Mr. Howe.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Here. Yes.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer. Here.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so we are going to review variance application 20-007. We'll get our applicants in the room and then go for the staff report.
Alright, so like I said, this is VA 20-007. This is located at 355 West Broad Street, the YMCA. It's currently zoned M1 Light Manufacturing. The applicant's requesting approval of 3 variances. Excuse me, the PowerPoint was incorrect there. They're requesting approval of 3 variances for a ground sign, electronic message center sign. So if you look here with the area map, you'll see the parcel in question outlined in yellow. Got the railroad tracks to the south and Broad Street to the north. So the property itself, 17.03 acres, home to Pataskal YMCA. There's an access drive onto Broad Street running back to the YMCA building, and the lot is a flag lot. A little bit of zoning history. The YMCA is currently undergoing some renovations. There was a small addition added in 2018 and a new wall sign that was done somewhat recently. So the proposal is to replace the existing ground sign with a new sign that will be 13 and 1.5 inches tall by 6 feet 3 inches wide overall. And they will have a 7-foot ½ inch by 6 feet 3 inches or 44 square feet white Lexan sign, and a 3-foot 5 inch by 6 foot 3 inch or 21.35 square foot full color LED electronic message center sign with a sign base with white vinyl lettering showing the address. So here's the proposed location of the sign. Like I mentioned, we're removing the existing sign and replacing it with a new one right here. Here's a look at the current sign. I cannot really zoom in, so I apologize, but you can see it's quite small. So here's the proposal. We've got the 13-foot sign by 6 feet 3 inches with the white Lexan sign with the logo, and a 21.35 square foot electronic message center sign, and then the sign base here, which does not factor into the overall total square footage of the sign. So the freestanding ground signs shall not exceed 32 square feet in size and 10 feet in height as proposed. The total sign area is 65.35 square feet and a total height of 13 feet 1.5 inches. The electronic message center sign, for the requirements of the code, it's 24 square feet max. It may not change more than once in a 3-minute period. It shall be static, cannot flash, roll, or scroll, or employ any other animation or motion techniques during the change, and is limited to a dark background with single color employed at any one time. So in the narrative statement that was supplied by the applicant, they stated that the sign is needed to communicate the expanded YMCA activities, classes, events, and to people traveling along Route 16. And it's also to provide visibility to the location as the building itself is over 300 feet from Broad Street and is not very visible. The applicant believes that it will not impair the visibility of traffic or public safety, and that the larger sign height is because the sign will be located below the grade of Route 16. So as part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. They're requesting 3 variances total. The first one from section 129509B2C to allow for the sign to exceed 32 square feet and 10 feet in height. So their total square footage again is 65.35 square feet. They're exceeding that by 33.35 or 103.2%. And the 13-foot, 1.5-inch height exceeds the max by 3 feet, 1.5 inches, or 31.3%. The second variance is to allow the ground sign to exceed 10 feet in height. This one's actually mentioned twice in the code, so again, they're asking for a variance of 3 feet, 1.5 inches. And the third variance is to allow an electronic message center sign that will employ more than one color at any time. So previously, you'll remember from the last hearing, they had requested 6 variances. The applicant tabled that for revised plans. They removed the need for 3 of those variances and reduced the sign size by 38.65 square feet or 37% reduction, reduced the sign height by 3 feet 4.5 inches or 20%, and reduced the electronic sign size by 10.65 square feet or 68%. So ground signs, according to section 1295.09 B2C, shall be at least 10 feet from the road right-of-way. This appears to be compliant. However, when the applicant submits for the sign permit, they'll need to indicate that actual distance on the site plan. And other than that, staff has no other concerns with the proposal. The city engineer stated that the applicant shall ensure the sign is placed outside the city's right-of-way, and we did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. For the surrounding properties, to the north we have Zone GB General Business, which is an auto sales and storage place. To the north is also zoned R10, High Density Residential, which is single family homes. To the east we have it zoned RMH, which is the trailer park. To the south is zoned Agricultural, which is the railroad and some vacant agricultural land. And to the west is zoned M1 Light Manufacturing, which is an auto sales, storage facility, and a lumber yard. So here are your findings of fact. They're also indicated there in your staff report. So section 1211.072 allows other factors to be considered, including comments from city staff when determining if an area variance is warranted. So the following factors may be considered for this application, that one being to increase the maximum allowable height or area of signs on a lot, and it is suggested that the same should not be increased by more than 25%. However, if you remember from the last hearing, this is up to the board's discretion. So should the Board of Zoning Appeals choose to approve the applicant's request, the following conditions may be considered. One being that the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and Lincoln County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Setback from the road has got to be 10 feet, is it right? And is that currently what the current sign is?
So in the site plan, it was not indicated.
It has to be a minimum of 10 feet from the edge of the right-of-way. I do not know current distance.
Okay, gotcha. And the difference between this one and the main difference is it's coming down in height, is that correct?
Yes, so the applicant reduced the overall height of the sign and the total signage size has been reduced, as well as the size of the electronic sign.
And there's no variance now for the 3-minute letter changing or scrolling or any of that?
Correct.
So that now the sign, they're going to build a sign within those requirements now?
Yes, they will. They say that they will comply with the other regulations of the electronic message center section of code.
And I guess just for my, curiosity, that land immediately to the east, that's a vacant grass lot right now.
Correct.
And that's zoned manufacturing, right?
It's zone GB General Business.
General business. But we don't have any indication that that's anything in the development stage for that.
That's correct.
Is anyone on the board have any more questions for staff?
Have there been any inquiries from anyone around that area?
No, we have not received any comments or phone calls from anyone that notices were sent to, or anyone in fact.
Okay. Well, with that then, I know we have 2 speaker forms, Mr. Boren, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Mr. Kessler. And if you, I'm gonna have you just, if you both wanna speak, I'm gonna have you do it separately this time, so it's just whoever wants to go first.
He's more than welcome. I like a smaller sign that saves more money.
No problem, thank you. And if you could step up to the podium, Mr. Kessler, and Lisa will swear you in.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Roger Kessler, Kessler Sign Company. I was here last time, and we reduced the size of the sign, the height of the sign, smaller electronic sign, and we will have a 10-foot setback. I'm 99.9% sure that the existing sign is at least 10-foot setback. As I talked to my staff who originally put it up, and he said they had someone from the city down and placed it with their approval, and at that particular time it's 10-foot minimum setback. So,
Is your plans to put it in the same spot?
yes.
So I'm sure that that final measurement would be something we need to do.
And we'll make sure that it is, right? Correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Any other points that you want to mention?
No, just any questions you might have. Went through most of it last time.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Kessler?
No.
Not yet? So it's all good. You want to go ahead and have a seat? And Mr. Moran, did you want to testify?
I can answer any questions that might be.
Well, you'd have to come up and
I'm ready.
get sworn in again.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
The thing I might add is that this sign's just, it's not only going to be used for the Y, but we use it for the community. And when events happen, usually what happens, like, if the school wants us to announce something, or even you want to announce something, so we can get it out in the community's public, it's going to be for the community as well. So it's a tool. It's not. We've got the Lincoln County Aging. We'll also have the COTC involved. So it's just it's a messaging so we can let everyone know what's going on in our community. Any questions?
Any other questions for Mr. Moran? Thank you, sir.
I'll give you thank you.
Yeah. Any other discussion at this point? That being said, I think we can look at findings of fact. Make sure I get the right one. And I do. All right, for the findings of fact, A would be whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or if there can be a beneficial use of the property. And I think that would be a yes.
Yes.
Would still be the same use. We have yes for everyone? Okay, B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property from being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulations such that a variance is necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. My thought, that would be yes, because of the long, narrow drive, and the building basically being hidden, I guess, for the most part from the road. So my thought would be yes. Anyone else? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. C, whether the variance requested is substantial. I believe it is. It's 31% over square footage.
Yeah.
I
And-
believe it is.
What's that?
I agree.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would substantially be altered or adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
No.
And I'd say that it doesn't. No would be an answer?
No.
No. E, whether the variance, if granted, will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property.
No.
This one I have a little concern on. I mean, just that property being general business and small, that one sign could kind of dominate it.
Yeah, I think because of the way the grade is,
Mm-hmm.
that I can, the height, because it does fall under the Broad Street.
Yeah. I mean,
Right. So, and I think that's where they're trying to, and, you know, they're, depending on what the next business is, we might have to see what we can do to help them also.
right, no, I understand the
Yeah.
need for the larger sign. I think with the way that building is, you really need something, but I'm just concerned if they were to put a small business there, that sign might overpower them, you know what I mean? So whether the variance of granted substantially permanently impair the appropriate use of development of the adjacent property.
I don't think permanently, I mean, a sign isn't a permanent fixture.
Mm-mm.
Would anyone agree with
I
that?
agree.
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
no.
Yeah, and don't feel like uncomfortable saying anything because we've got in trouble for not discussing it enough. So just so you guys know, if you feel like you wanna say something, it's always beneficial to our cause.
Okay, so we have 3 no's. No. I'm still gonna say yes, but as the board, we will go as a no. F, whether the variance, if granted, will be detrimental to the public welfare. I don't see how it would be detrimental, so no, okay?
Yes, no.
G,
Correct, no.
whether the variance, if granted, would adversely affect the delivery of government services.
No.
No, should have no effect on those. H, whether the property owner purchased the subject property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. And I'm gonna put no, but I'm not sure that it really is.
Haven't been
Beneficial at this
discussed.
Yeah, I'd probably say no.
Okay, J, whether the property owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method than variance. And I don't think it can.
I don't think
No, I
so.
don't think
I
so.
think they need some, so answer is no on I. J, whether the variance, if granted, will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue. And if granted, I'm gonna say no, because they could always do a different size sign, but I don't think that it's really,
Yeah, I agree with you.
well,
I agree.
everybody okay with no? Okay, and K, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. And I think it would, I think.
Yes.
So we're okay with yes?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, is there any other more discussion?
No.
Then I would look for a motion, if someone wants to propose one.
I move to approve variance from section 1295.09B 2C, 1295.909B 4C, and 1295.10B 7B 6 of the Pataskala Code for variance application BA-20-007 with the following supplementary conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any other discussion?
No.
They will.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Rodebeck?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion does pass. We appreciate that. You have,
Back for the Y, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
you're
We have
welcome.
to see you there.
Soon.
Absolutely. Okay. Next item is first of new business, variance 20-009. And I will, we have everyone in, it's gonna be coming in. Turn it over to staff.
Yes, thank you, sir. Location of this one's at 133 Annette Drive. It's currently zoned R20, medium density residential. And the applicant's requesting approval of 5 total variances, 3 of those variances to construct a detached garage and 2 variances for the construction of a circular driveway. So if you take a look here at the area map, you actually see this is for 2 separate parcels. They're both 133 Annette Drive, but they're 2 separate parcels. can see them right here. In yellow, you got Broad Street up north, and then it's on the west side, so you got Reynoldsburg over here. So again, it's 2 parcels, both addressed 133 Annette. The south lot, 0.28 acres, currently has a single-family home on it and a small gazebo. Access to this property is via a paved asphalt driveway onto Annette Drive. And then on the north lot, which is also 0.28 acres, there's a approximately 90 square foot shed and an approximately 100 square foot shed. So there's 2 sheds on the north lot. And on this parcel, there's a gravel driveway from Annette Drive running about 120 feet into the lot. So take a look here, you can kind of see the existing conditions. On the south lot, you got the existing single-family home here, small gazebo in the rear yard. And then on the north lot, you got the gravel driveway coming in with a small shed here and another shed back towards the rear of the lot. And here's some photos from the existing conditions on the lot. So on the top right, you can kind of see where the photo was taken and what direction it's pointing in. So you've got the applicant's house here, and the area where the garage would be built right here. This is in front of the north lot looking into the gravel driveway. So you can see the garage would be somewhere right over here, the existing house, and then the 2 sheds right here on the left-hand side of the picture. Here's a close look at the 2 sheds. And this is from the side of the property looking towards the existing house, or where the garage would be built right here in the middle. And then from the rear of the lot looking forward, you can see one of the sheds here in the gravel driveway and the applicant's house over here to the left. So the proposal is to build a 22 foot by 22 foot or 484 square foot detached garage on the north lot. And this garage will be set directly on the property line between the north and the south lots, meaning it will have a 0 foot setback. It'll be set back from the front property line 48 feet. And then the applicant's also proposing to remove the shed nearest the rear property line on the north lot. He's also proposing to build a circular or horseshoe driveway using the existing entrances to the street onto Annette Drive. This driveway will cross over the property lines between the north and south lots. It will be built on paved asphalt, and it will run to the proposed garage. So if you look here, this is the site plan that was submitted for it. So you've got your existing house, and then the proposed 2-car garage right here, just to the north of it, with the property line running just on the south face of the garage there. And then the circular driveway using the existing entrances running up to the garage and around back to the other entrance. And then we'll be removing the shed in the rear. And then here's a kind of quick look at about where the garage would go in relation to the existing house on the lot. So in the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant, they stated that except for a small shed on the north parcel, the lot's virtually useless without the variance. They also believe that the proposed variances are minor, will not affect the surrounding properties negatively, and that with the current zoning restrictions, the applicant believes that there does not seem to be any other way to build a garage. So as part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. In total, there are 5 variances being requested. The first one, to allow for an accessory building on a lot without a principal structure. The north lot does not have an existing principal structure, hence the need for the variance. The second one, for an accessory building to be in the rear. Next up there. Section 122105 D1 states that accessory buildings shall be in the side or rear yard. In this case, since there isn't an existing principal structure on the house, it must meet the front yard setback. However, in this R20 zoning district, the front yard setback is 50 feet. The applicant's proposing to build the garage at only 48 feet, therefore they're requesting a variance of 2 feet, or a 4% decrease. The third one, 122105E1 states that accessory buildings shall have a side yard setback of 5 feet when they're built on lots less than 2 acres. The applicant's proposing it as 0 feet and requesting a variance of 5 feet from that, or 100%. And then the next 2 variances are for the driveway. Section 1221.13 states that driveway shall have a side yard setback of 3 feet. So the circular driveway will cross over the property line between both parcels, therefore it's going to have a setback of 0 feet. They're requesting a variance of 3 feet, or 100%. On the north lot, and as it's going on both the lots, they need a variance for both lots to have that 0 foot setback. So The fifth variance is the same variance, but for the south lot. Also, section 122105A states there shall only be a total of 2 accessory buildings on a single lot. So existing on the north lot, there's those 2 sheds. However, the applicant is proposing to remove the shed nearest the rear property line. So if that rear shed were to be removed, they would be in compliance with this requirement. The applicant also stated in the narrative that with the current zoning restrictions, there doesn't seem to be any other way to build the garage. The applicant did come in or discuss with staff over the phone about replatting the lots into a single lot and attaching the garage to the house, which would remove the need for any variances or only having to remove one of the sheds. So planning and zoning staff has no other concerns with the proposal. The city engineer stated that the applicant shall ensure the existing drainage pattern is maintained and these, I think I hit the wrong button here, sorry. The Southwest Lincoln Community Water and Sewer District stated that the district requests that the water and sanitary sewer services for Lot 59 not be paved over and that the property owner can request OOPS to come out and locate those for them. And we did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. The surrounding properties to the north, east, south, and west are all zoned R20, medium density residential, and they are all single family homes. So here are your findings of fact. Of course, they're also printed there in your staff report. And should the board choose to approve the applicant's request, the following conditions may be considered. One being that the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and the Lincoln County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. 2 being the applicant shall remove one of the existing sheds on the parcel number 06314454700-00.000, the north lot, prior to construction of the new accessory building. And 3, the applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer in the Southwest Lincoln Community Water and Sewer District. And of course, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I think some of my questions were covered by the supplementary conditions. The last 2 variances are really the same variance, it's just that it's 2 plots of land and crossing over on it.
That's correct.
Okay, and, okay, I have any other questions?
You said that they had proposed to combine lots.
Yes, when the applicant first approached staff about building the garage, we had discussed replatting both of those lots into a single lot and then attaching the garage with maybe a breezeway or something, which would, then it would no longer be an accessory building.
Right.
So they wouldn't require any other variances for that. Or if it were to be in a detached garage, they would have to remove one of the sheds.
So are they still thinking about the replat or not?
They decided to go with the variances instead.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Mr. Ponzio, is
Yes.
that right? Did you want to testify?
I think he covered it perfectly.
Okay, well, if you would come up and swear in, just so a couple of questions if we could.
Right here.
Yep, and if you look at Lisa, raise your right hand and she'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
I guess one of the questions, and the first thing when I read this, and I know we've discussed it, but I'd like to hear from you, wouldn't it just have been easier to replat that land into one plot?
It came down to cost because working with the builder to attach the garage to the existing house would have been quite a bit more money.
Okay.
And after when I was looking into the survey and things like that, that was about another almost $30,000 for that.
Okay.
So cost was really the biggest factor. Then I went this way.
Understand that. How long have you been there?
Just since October, past October.
And when you bought it, obviously you bought both parcels of land.
Right, it was all one.
Okay. Were you aware of these variances that you would need?
No, I hadn't even considered the garage at that point.
Yeah.
As I looked at how small the house is, I'm hoping to take the existing 1-car garage that's there now and turn it into living space eventually. So that was kind of my plan. And having the other lot was basically useless without doing something else to it. So
Sure.
the 2-car garage sounded like the best estimate.
Okay. You've seen the proposal and the supplementary conditions. Did you have any issues with those?
No?
And you understand about that, the water and sewer district, you'd have to get get that
Yes, I
out?
think that goes right next to the street there, is where that piping is, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Ponzio?
What will be the height of the proposed garage?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you planning to match your house?
I believe they said it was going to be slightly lower
Okay.
because, but the pitch on the roof on the house right now isn't very high as it is, so it may be about the same, but definitely not higher.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Ponzio. Have we heard anything from any of the neighbors?
No, we did not receive any comments.
Good. Do we have any other questions for staff or anyone? Comments?
No, I would like to see a supplementary, another condition
Okay.
on there about the height, that it can't exceed.
Cannot exceed the existing house
Is that,
principal structure?
So the
Or
requirement
whatever.
for less than 2 acres is 18 feet.
okay. So we could put that, less than, that it's less than 18 feet?
Or would that have to
Or how
come
much?
out
It-
with a zoning or with a permit?
It would come up with the permit, and if it exceeded that, they would need another variance.
They would have to-
Okay, so we don't have to put a condition in there, okay.
Makes sense. Okay, any other comments or questions for staff or anyone?
No.
That being said, we have the findings of fact. First one, A, is whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or if there can be a beneficial use of the property with this variance, and I'd say yes. In fact, it kind of makes sense. B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulations, such that a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. Yes, without the
Yes.
physical structure there. Okay. C, whether the variance requested is substantial.
I'd say no.
No,
Yeah, I have to agree with no on that. It's just,
especially if the other barn has been, the other shed is taken out, I think it would be,
well, we're gonna have that as a supplementary condition, so I think we got that covered, so no, okay. D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And I don't think so. I think it'll probably blend right in with the neighbors, so we're okay with
I
no?
agree.
Okay. E, whether the variance if granted will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property. And it shouldn't have any effect on adjacent property.
I agree.
I agree.
No. F, whether the variance if granted will be detrimental to the public welfare.
No,
No. Agree with that. Whether the variance, G, whether the variance, if granted, would adversely affect the delivery of government services, and it should have no negative effect on them. No. H, whether the property owner purchased the subject property with the knowledge of the zoning restrictions, and he testified that he didn't know that.
Right.
So that'd be no. I, whether the property owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method than variance. And the answer, I think, on that is yes, he could replot the land. But
Yeah.
that was a financial decision. So we okay with yes?
Yes.
yes,
Okay. J, whether the variance, if granted, will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue. And I think, considering what he wants to do, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes.
Yes.
Okay. J would be yes, and K, excuse me there, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. And I'd say yes, I don't think.
I agree.
So yes, so we have, yes for A, B, I, J, K, and then C through H would all be answered no. Any other questions, comments? Anyone know? That being said, can we have a motion?
I move to approve variances from section 1221.05 D4, 1221.05.05 E1, 1221.05 D1 of the Pataskala Code, a variance from section 1221.13 of the Pataskala Code for the north lot, which is 063-145470-00.000, and a variance from section 1121.13 of the Pataskala Code for the south lot, which is parcel 063-145458-00.000 for variance application VA-20-009 with the following supplementary conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. The applicant shall remove one of the existing sheds on parcel number 063-145470-00.000 prior to construction of the new accessory building, and the applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer and the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
And we now have a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Can I have roll, please?
Ms. Rotobeck?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Ms. Boyer?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Mr. Ponzio, and as far as the variances, they've been accepted, and the staff will get with you in the next few days to figure out the next steps.
Great.
Thank you. Good luck with the house.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I should have picked a shorter motion to make.
What's
That's why
that?
I should have picked a shorter motion to make. That was a
Some of
lot of
the,
words.
Yeah.
just that parcel number was what I found.
No, with
You
it
did a
being
great job.
two separate
Thank
lots, it
you.
makes it.
You lost me. I couldn't follow you after a while. I just looked for the last.
Yeah.
This one's proposing a third structure?
Four.
Scott said he'd be right back.
Okay. We'll get started then.
Yep.
Variance application VA-20-010. Applicant Josh Fletcher, and turn over to staff.
Thank you, sir. Location of this one's at 5305 Mink Street Southwest. Acreage is at 1.26. It's currently zoned agricultural. The applicant's requesting approval of 2 variances to allow for the construction of a detached garage and 1 variance to allow for the construction of a gravel driveway. So if you take a look at the property here, you can see it outlined in yellow. You got Mink Street running north to south on the west side here. Up north, you got the intersection between Mink and Havens Corners. And the lot in yellow right here. So again, the property is 1.26 acres, currently occupied by a 1,700 square foot single family home. There's 3 accessory buildings on the lot, a approximately 1,008 square foot pole barn, an approximately 1,296 square foot pole barn, and an approximately 173 square foot shed. There is an asphalt driveway off of Mink Street, which wraps around the south home, or the south side of the home, closest to the pole barn, closest to that single family residence. Take a look, here's a closer look at the existing conditions. So you got the asphalt driveway off of Mink, wrapping around the south side of the home, here to the shed, 1 accessory structure, this pole barn back here, 2 accessory structures, and the pole barn in the back, the 3rd accessory structure, and the single family home here up in the front. And there's also a swimming pool right here. So the proposal is to build a 30-foot by 60-foot or 1,800 square foot pole barn adjacent to the existing accessory building that's closest to the house. It'll be 20 feet to the east of the existing building, 10 feet from the north side property line, 63 feet from the south side property line, and 228 feet from the rear property line. Applicant's also proposing an additional gravel parking pad in front of the proposed building connecting to the existing driveway. So here's the proposal. See the proposed accessory building right here next to the existing one, 10 foot off the north property line, 63 feet off the south property line, and 228 feet to the rear. and the gravel parking pad in front connecting to the existing driveway here. So here's some photos that were submitted by the applicant of the property. You can see the black outline here. This is at the rear of the property looking forward. You can see right here, kind of like a black outline showing where the proposed accessory structure would go. Here is the setback at the existing accessory structure. It's 10 feet from the property line to the existing pole barn back there, which is the setback that's required, and it's what it's proposed at. Here's another look at the area looking from the existing pole barn east towards the back of the lot. So in the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant, they stated that the new building will be used to store equipment and supplies for the family cleaning business, which is a type A home occupation, and that having storage on site will be more secure. The applicant also stated that the proposed building will not be detrimental to the surrounding properties. So as part of our review, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. So there's 3 total variances being requested. So section 1221.05A states that there's a maximum of 2 accessory buildings per lot. Existing, there's 3, so they're already over the permitted amount. The applicant's requesting a variance to allow for 4, or double the amount of maximum permitted accessory structures. The second variance is from section 1221.05B1. So the total square footage for 4 accessory buildings on a single lot less than 2 acres is equal to that equation up there. The acres of the lot times 600 plus 120 times 2, and that's cumulative of all accessory structures on the lot. So using that equation, we get 1.26 times 600 plus 120 times 2 gives you 1,752 square feet. The existing 3 accessory buildings on the lot already total 2,477 square feet, which is 725 square feet over the maximum permitted, or 41.4%. So adding that 1,800 square foot pole barn, the request is a variance of 2,525 square feet over the maximum permitted amount, or a 114% increase. The third variance is from section 1291.02A4, which states that all driveways shall be asphalt or concrete platted subdivisions. This lot is within the Bates Emsweiler subdivision, which was platted in 1957. The applicant's requesting a variance to add that gravel parking pad in front of the proposed building with the connection to the existing driveway. So, in the narrative, the applicant saying the purpose of the new building is for their family business. A type A home occupation is where residents use the home as a place of work or a business address. However, no employees or customers come to the site. Type A home occupations require no permits or approval from the BZA. However, they are still subject to Chapter 1287 offsite impacts. Planning and zoning staff doesn't have any other concerns with the proposal. The city engineer stated the applicant shall ensure existing drainage patterns are maintained, and the sewer district stated that should an extension or water sewer services to the building if it's requested, that they would require additional tap and capacity fees. Did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. So the characteristics of the surrounding properties: to the north, we have it zoned agricultural, which is a single family home. To the east is agricultural, which is a single family home, is some agricultural land. To the south is also zoned agricultural, which is a single family home. And to the west we have it zoned rural residential, which is a single family home. Here are your findings of fact, which are also printed in your staff report there. So should the board choose to approve the applicant's request, following conditions may be considered. 1 being that the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the city of Pataskala and the Lincoln County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. And 2 being that the applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer and Southwest Licking Community Water Sewer District. And if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
A couple questions on that. Your overhead, or your first picture, where it showed the plot of land and it showed up the accessory, what is that directly above the small shed?
Swimming pool.
Oh, it's a pool.
Yes.
Gotcha. And you had also said that the use of the land on all 4 sides was single-family home. Is there a single-family home on the east side?
On the east side, it's down here, but their parcel goes up to almost halfway in between this lot up here and the lot here.
Oh, wow.
So single families here, and then up here is agricultural land.
And the access to that single-family home is?
It's down here
So it's not even on Meek Street.
Not even on Main Street. I can't remember the name of the road off the
Gotcha,
top of my
okay.
head.
Let me see.
You can kind of see their driveway snakes down here.
Yeah, got it. I just thought that was agricultural or just, agriculture out there. Let's see. I think you were pretty thorough. Is there any questions for staff?
Oh, that's very cool, thank you.
All right, the applicant is Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher here. Would you want
Yes.
to testify, Mr. Fletcher?
Yes.
Okay, if you could then, if you could come up to the podium. And Lisa will swear you in. Over here, if you could raise your right hand and look at Lisa. She'll get you.
Sure. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anything to add to the staff presentation?
No.
A couple of concerns I got. One, it just, with the requirement being no more than 2, you're already at 3. And you want to obviously increase that to 4. And is that really necessary? Can you, like, maybe that little shed be removed?
No, the little shed is, keeps Chuck's lawn mowing equipment and stuff like that, so, everything is being used to maximum capacity, as it sits.
Mm-hmm.
What do you use the other 2 for? The other pole barn is also used for storage, and the back building is actually a horse barn. There's horses on the property.
Okay.
Is there any way to do an attachment to one of the current buildings instead of a separate building?
I would say it's not out of a possibility, but it would be a large attachment.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, you still run into the square footage issue at that point.
Oh, yeah, we're still at max square footage, aren't we?
well, they're over 725 and wanting to add 1,800, so they're 2,500 over square footage.
Yeah.
And that was 114% increase. What is it totally over the variance?
I believe it was. Let's see here.
Because they're zoned agricultural and it's still 2 acres, they still fall under. I know some are agricultural for buildings. Maybe it's over 10 acres.
For what?
That you don't like.
For agricultural exemption.
Right, agricultural exemption.
So
If
the
it's used.
agricultural structure has to be located on the actual property where that use is happening.
The back building, it is used for agriculture. It's the horse barn.
Right.
And the horses are actually on the back property, which is 7 acres in the back.
But it's a separate plot of land.
It is a separate plot of land, yes, but it joins right up to the back of the building that is used to keep the horses. So
And
it is used for agricultural.
Okay. So can that be exempt from the square footage?
No, we investigated that to see if that would help, but
Right.
unfortunately, the horse barn would have to be on the property directly behind it.
Okay. Or they would have to replot?
They could adjust the lot line to move the eastern property line so that the large parcel incorporates the horse barn. I mean, that's a possibility, but still I think there'll still be some other variances involved.
Yeah, even with the maximum square footage on the lot is, I think, 1,752. So even with the 1,800 square foot building, they'd still need a variance for that.
Okay. So you guys have
Yeah.
investigated that. It sounds like you did a thorough job on that.
And to answer Alan's question, the total square footage on the lot with the proposed structure would be 4,277.
And the allowances, what was the formula?
So the formula is the acreage of the lot times 600 plus
Plus
120
120.
times 2, which gives you 1,752. And the amount currently on there with those 3 accessory buildings is 2,477. with the 1,800 square foot building, it would be 4,277. So they're requesting a variance of 2,525 square feet over that maximum permitted amount.
So it's about 150% or so over the 1,752. No.
This type A business, could I get a definition of what that is and how it's affecting this?
So the type A home occupation, it's a home occupation where the residents of the home run it. You don't have any employees or customers coming to the site. Basically, the residents of the house get up and leave in the morning, go do their business, and they come back at night. So there aren't any customers that come there. There aren't employees that come and park there and get in trucks and drive out. It's just for the sole occupants of the home.
And there's no stipulations as to buildings, et cetera? He said that this building's going to be used to house the equipment,
Correct.
and that's not there's no effect there.
Yes, it's permitted.
Okay.
Where do you put the stuff down? It is scattered between buildings, some equipment's left outside, and it's also at our residential house located in Reynoldsburg.
So, Mr. Fletcher, you live there now?
No, it is Chuck's property.
Okay, and then, so what is, I mean, you're the applicant, so what is your relationship in that?
His daughter is my girlfriend, fiance.
And it's your cleaning business?
It's her cleaning business. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I've innately inherited some of it.
Do you have any idea, would this be the last of any of the motions or variances you'd be requesting?
As
Of
far
all
as we
these
know,
signs?
this would be all the variances we would need.
Okay. Did you have any other questions for Mr. Fletcher? Mr. Fletcher, you have anything else at this moment?
No, sir.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. Appreciate that. Thank you. And Mr. Baumann, did you want to testify?
Everything's been pretty much covered.
I've just got one question for you, so I'm gonna need you to, if you could,
Okay.
just come up, since you're the owner.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is one that comes up every time. I just want to be sure. Did you understand that these variances would be necessary when you bought the property, or you've been there quite some time?
Been there for about 36 years, 35, 36
So I'm
years.
going to assume you didn't
Prior
you
to
weren't aware of the
that,
variances.
You didn't have to have all that.
Of course.
And some of those buildings were up before all the zoning took effect because it wasn't attached. It was lined up.
And have you added any of these buildings the time you've been there?
Yeah, both barns, as a matter of fact. It was right after the front barn up by closest to the pool. That one, it's probably been 20 years. And the back barn, that was in '03.
Got it. Okay. So you have any questions for Mr. Baumann? Did I say that right, Baumann?
When you built those, you didn't need to get any variances or anything approved for that at that point?
We did on the back one,
Okay.
the horse barn. And there was some stuff we had to make sure on the front barn that we were far enough away from the property line when that was built.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and have a seat. Thank you, sir. So any feedback or any comments from any other residents?
No, we have not received any comments.
Any neighbors? Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, so this is VA 20 -010, findings of fact. A, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or if there can be a beneficial use of the property. And I would say yes, it seems to be.
I'd say yes as well.
Property,
Yes.
yes. B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulations such that a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. And I don't think there are.
I don't think so.
Not, not physical, it was just that their usage
Yeah.
is really the reason, I guess. No would be your answer?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. C, whether the variance requested is substantial.
Yes.
I think it is. It's quite a bit over the,
Yes.
okay, so we're okay with yes?
Yes.
Okay, D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would substantially be altered, or the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. My thought is no, I don't see how it would really negatively affect anything
I,
I agree.
I disagree.
I
Okay.
disagree also.
there. Okay?
It's, I mean, you're basically turning it into a business property. You know, you're gonna have two large garages right next door to each other. I think that's, I'm very surprised that we haven't had any comments from neighbors.
Well, I think, you know, I don't know what you wanna call it, the layout or the character of that neighborhood is pretty agricultural. I mean, when I went out to look at it, that's why I didn't think it would really, the way it is, and they're tucked back. And it sounds to me like it's already being used. I mean, I don't think the addition of the building is gonna change the usage, it's already being done that way.
Yes.
The question is, you know, is the stuff put in the garage somewhere or something?
And I think that would help too, if, as he said, there's things stored in this structure, in this house, some of it's kept outside, if all of it's kept in the building, there's less clutter around.
But we're also setting precedents for,
We are, and that's, like I said, the substantial variance. Two units over plus the square footage.
Mhm.
right.
Yes.
I mean, we're only here to interpret.
The essential character of the neighborhood would substantially be altered or joined. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess just when going out and looking at it, I didn't feel that it would. Feel that it's kind of.
It's kind of speculatory in a sense.
I would say no to this one.
I do know other citizens that are trying to comply and they're actually adding on to their barns and having to hire engineers to stay within compliance, so I do think it's something that we need to tread lightly and think about. I've had conversations on other horse barns and, you know, people are just talking
Sure.
about, you know, how they have to comply within. So
Okay.
with having those conversations.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and vote on this, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially be altered, or the adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. And my thought was no. Josh, you said no?
No.
Did you say yes?
I say yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes? No? So we have 3 no's and 2 yeses, so we're gonna go ahead and the board is no. E, whether the variance if granted will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of the adjacent property. And I don't see how it would affect the development of
I agree.
the
I
adjacent
agree.
property. So, no, you okay?
No.
Okay. Whether the variance if granted would be detrimental to the public welfare.
No.
I don't see any effect on that, no. Whether if granted would be adversely affect the delivery of government services.
No.
Shouldn't be an issue there. Whether the property owner purchased the subject property with knowledge of the restriction, and he purchased it without knowledge, so it's no.
Correct.
Whether the property owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method than variance. Well, I think there was one suggestion about combining buildings,
But that would only take care of one,
there would still be variance.
Yeah,
or
I
so
think they
would be
need to-
square footage variance.
So I'd have to say no. I mean,
I would say no also.
to fix his predicament, he would have to have a variance. That was good? J, whether the variance if granted will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue. Granted, minimum variance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big variance, that's totally, I'd probably say no. But, I mean, there'd probably be less,
I think you
a
could do it.
lesser way to do it
Yeah,
somehow, but
I mean, whether variance if granted will represent the minimum variance. I think that, I mean, obviously, the variance could be less.
yeah.
Well, he has not had any other variances due to be grandfathered in, from Lima Township, so it's not like excessive, coming back for more and more variances.
That might be a question for staff, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely have a situation where the square footage is above code and the number of units is above code. Are there variances in place for those?
Well, if the gentleman said the last one, he did one in 2003, and then the one was 20 years ago, so what do we, 2000, in our records to put a finger on, oh, here it is, we're still in the process of identifying those, so offhand, I don't know. And I also don't know what the code was like in 2003 or 2000 to determine how much, if it was fine at the time versus how the code is today. So I unfortunately don't have that information.
We don't know when the code was revised to today's.
Today's, it would have been a couple years ago because we had so many variances for,
Less than 10?
oh, definitely 2-3 years ago, tops.
So then,
Because we were having so many variances, and before that, it was probably maybe 2 years before that. So it's gone through 2 changes in arguably the last 5 years.
so then theoretically, those 3 existing units are grandfathered in.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be, yes. Well, under current code, yes.
The variance of granted is a minimum variance. Well, I'll read the question again. Whether the variance if granted will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue. And I think that there's, we kind of came to the conclusion there could be a smaller variance, so we'd have to say no, or I'd say no on this.
I'd say no.
You okay with that? And K, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance. Substantial justice. Really kind of, those words are jumping out of me for some reason right now. Whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement will be observed, I don't think it would be.
No.
And the substantial justice done by granting the variance, so I'd have to say no to that. I would say no. Okay, so we have yes for letters A and C, no for B, and D through K.
Agree.
Any other comments or questions, discussion? That being the case, do we have a motion? Can we have a motion?
I move to approve 2 variances from section 1221.05A and section 1221.05B1 and 1 variance from section 1291.02A4 for variance application BA-20-010 with the following supplementary conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and the Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. The applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer and the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. Can I have a second?
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Additional discussion. Any other discussion? That being said, can we have roll?
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Butler,
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer,
Yes.
Ms. Rodebeck,
No.
Mr. Cook.
No.
We have 3 yeses and 2 nos. The variance does pass. Staff will be getting back with you and on the next steps. And hopefully that will solve all your issues at this point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
We need to do that, but that's just, that's part of the reason. Because I have 19 acres and we only have 2 buildings on ours.
I was iffy.
Yeah, it's personal opinion, as
Yeah.
long as we, and I knew, I kind of felt like it was gonna float anyways, but,
I went out when I looked at the property, that's what sold me.
yeah, yeah,
I
I mean,
didn't go out and look, and I should have.
What could they do in the future to, even if it became, I see precedents in action.
Yeah.
I do understand that.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the variance application VA-20-011. Mr. Hall, Patesco Meats. If we go ahead and turn over staff.
Thank you, sir. Location of this one's at 12397 Broad Street. Acreage is currently 5. Zoned PM Plain Manufacturing. The applicant's requesting approval of a variance from section 125305C2 to allow for the construction of a building addition that will fail to meet the east side yard setback. So take a look here. Is the area map of the property. The property itself outlined in yellow. You got Broad Street to the north and at the Parkway way further over here to the east. So again, property is 5 acres, currently occupied by the 5,104 square foot Patesco Meats building. It's paved asphalt parking area on the north and west sides of the building. Access is via an access road which connects to a shared entrance on the Broad Street with the property to the west, and there's a turnaround from the access drive on the east side of the property. The front 1 acre of this parcel is developed, with the remaining acres in the back being woodland. So here's the existing conditions on the front 1 acre. You can see the building. You got parking on the north and west sides with the access drive over to the shared access on Broad Street here on the west, and a little turnaround here on the east. Excuse me. Here is the front of the Patesco Meats building. So you're looking at from Broad Street to the front. Here is sort of an off angle from the front looking towards the southwest. Here is the rear of the area, excuse me, the rear of the building, or the east side from the rear. So the proposal is to construct a 20-foot by 32-foot addition on the east side of the structure. It'll be 20 feet out from the building and 32 feet along the side. It's proposed at 8 feet tall, and the front face of the addition is lined up with the existing front wall of the building. So here's a look at the site plan that was proposed by the applicant. So you got the existing building here on the right side, 20 feet out, and then 32 feet back. Or roughly about there. And here's just a look at the front elevation with rough area about where that would be. And here's another sketch that was submitted by the applicant. So you got the front existing face of the building here with the proposed cooler. And then here's the front elevation. So this building addition is actually a walk-in cooler for the Patesco Meats business. So in the narrative statement that was submitted by the applicant, they stated that they chose the location because it was the only place that it could fit without interrupting any of the existing utility connections into the building or taking up existing parking spaces. And they also stated that the current store is becoming too small to meet the demand and they need more cold storage. They do not believe that there would be any adverse effects to the surrounding properties, and that should the board require it, they could reuse the siding that comes off the building to side in the cooler for aesthetic reasons. So, planning and zoning staff would like to offer the following comments. They're requesting one variance from section 1253.05C2, which states in the planned manufacturing district there's a required side yard setback of 50 feet. The building itself is already at that 50-foot setback from the east property line, so the addition will project 20 feet into the required side yard. Therefore, the variance request is 420 feet or a 40% decrease. The remaining setback to the east would be 30 feet. Staff does not have any other concerns with the proposal. The city engineer did state that the applicant shall ensure there are no existing easements located within the setback area that will be affected, and two, that the applicant shall ensure the existing drainage patterns are maintained. We did not receive any other comments from any other departments or agencies. And as for surrounding properties, to the north is zoned M1 Light Manufacturing, which is an AEP facility. To the east is zoned PM Planned Manufacturing, however it's currently just used for agricultural. To the south is more Planned Manufacturing, which is another AEP facility. And to the west is zoned General Business, which is a gun store and shooting range. So here are your findings of fact. They're also indicated there in your staff report. Should the board choose to approve the applicant's request, the following conditions may be considered. One being the applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and Lincoln County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval. Two, the applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer. And three, if the board so chooses, like they had mentioned in the narrative statement, the applicant will side the building addition to match the existing building. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Siding, is that a zoning issue, or is that just to make us happy?
It's not required by code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it would potentially blend it in a little better instead of having just the stainless steel cooler on the outside. Any other comments or questions for staff?
No.
That being said, I believe Mr. Hall is here.
Yes, sir.
Did you want to come up and testify, sir? And when you come up, if you could raise your right hand, look at Lisa, and she'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Did you have anything that you want to add to the staff presentation?
Not really, just a couple comments. It is equipment, it's not really a building addition, if that has any bearing on it. I mean, it's really not a building addition. I have had this problem in the past where I've called and asked questions about equipment. If you actually look at I don't know if the picture is still available, but
Yeah.
all along that side, I actually have a doghouse out there. If you can see the doghouse there, so that's kind of technically in the area that we're talking about as well, and it houses compressors and things like that. My AC units in that area. The building's at the 50 feet, so there's other things in that area that were permitted as far as equipment, and this is equipment as well. It's not part of the building. It's not a building. It's not a building addition. So
So you're gonna have to probably move that air conditioner?
actually, it comes right to the pad where the air conditioner is. We've decided that the air conditioner unit, we may have to move maybe 6 to 8 inches.
So it's all gonna be in front of it?
Yeah, everything's in front of there. There's also a septic grease trap that we talked about this morning. It's actually further from the air conditioner. We're gonna probably have at least 3 or 4 feet from the clean out, the front clean out for the grease trap. So we're not gonna be in that area either. But I just wanted to clarify that it is equipment. It's not like it's a building addition.
So the whole thing is a cooler, the
Yeah.
whole addition is a cooler.
20 by 32 cooler. Well, it's cooler freezer combo.
Okay. Where is the compressors and that kind of equipment?
Well, actually, we're gonna reuse some of these, that doghouse there currently has some, compressors there. And inside the building, this is gonna allow me to remove one of my coolers inside. I have a cooler freezer combo inside in my kitchen, and it's taking up my whole kitchen. So with this project, it's gonna allow me to remove that, and then the compressor space that's available is gonna be reused for that, and I'm gonna remove that out of the kitchen and make the kitchen bigger, which will allow us to cook more food and things like that.
Do a little more floor space.
Yeah.
Okay. And the variance were you involved with the building of the building?
Yeah, I built it.
About as involved as you can get, I guess. So you were aware then of the 50-foot setback variance?
Yeah, I was aware of it when I built it, that's why, that's where it's at.
Gotcha. Okay.
Uh,
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Hall?
When you purchased the property, were you aware of the variance requirements or the setback requirements on the side?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the building is right on the 50 feet mark, and that's how it was laid out, so. It was really the only place it could be because there's a power lines behind
It's a
it
long,
actually
narrow
that
lot,
kinda
isn't it?
boxed me in,
Yeah.
so.
That's why it's not, why you're not putting it on the west side of the building?
Yeah, I can't put anything in the easement. I'm actually building a cattle barn down there right now. If you drove by there, I don't have to have permits for that. And it's actually behind the easement. The easement's 150 feet behind the building, so I'm beyond that portion, and we're building a barn back there right now. So we can have more livestock on site. But yeah, the 50 feet is, I knew about it.
That's just one of the questions we
I
have to
can
answer.
understand why, it's a manufacturing site, you don't want, factory, right next to somebody's property, but, that's pretty much a piece of equipment.
And you've seen the staff report, did you have any issues with the supplementary conditions?
No, actually, there's a spouting too, as far as drainage, there's a spouting right on the corner of the building that we're gonna have to cut off, cause it's in the way, and that drain goes straight to the retention pond, so, drainage is gonna be maintained because we're gonna, relocate that and then, be able to take the water off of the cooler and put it in the same spot, so.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Nope. Have a seat then, Mr. Hall? Any other comments, questions?
No.
Looking at the findings of fact then, A, whether the property in question will get a reasonable return, or if there can be a beneficial use of the property.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely would. B, whether there are unique physical circumstances or conditions that prohibit the property being developed in strict conformity with the zoning regulation, such that a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property.
Yes.
Yes.
And that would be, I guess, the long, narrow lot.
Right, right.
Okay. C, whether the variance requested is substantial. And I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is.
Okay, no, we're okay? No. D, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
No.
Don't see any issue there, no. E, whether the variance if granted will substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent properties. And no, shouldn't have any effect on adjacent properties. F, whether the variance if granted will be detrimental to public welfare. And should have no negative effect on that, everyone agree with no. G, whether the variance if granted would adversely affect the delivery of government services. Should have no impact on that. Whether the property owner purchased the subject property with knowledge of the zoning restriction, and you testified that, and yes to that.
Correct.
And built the building to that zoning requirement. I, whether the property owner's predicament can be obviated through some other method than variance.
I would
And-
say no
I'd
due
say
to the
Yeah, it's
property.
the shape of the property, and if he's gonna be adding more refrigeration, he's gonna have to encroach, cause he's at the variance now, so, no. I, whether the variance, if granted, will represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of the requirement at issue. And
Yes.
I think so. Yes, okay. And K, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay with yes? Okay, so we have yes for A, B, H, J, and K, and then we have no for C, D, E, F, G, and I. Is there any additional comments or questions from everybody? Nope. That being said, would someone like to make a motion?
I move that the approval of variance from section 1253.05 C2 of the Pataskala Code for variance application VA 200-011, and with the following supplemental conditions. The applicant shall obtain all necessary permits from the City of Pataskala and Licking County Building Department within 1 year of the date of approval, and the applicant shall address all comments from the city engineer.
Okay.
You want the,
And we didn't discuss that. Want to add?
You could go ahead and finish the motion.
Yeah, let's go ahead and finish the motion
Okay.
and we'll have more further discussion.
However,
Applicant shall sign the,
Okay? So
Make the
we've
addition
got
to match the
a
existing
motion on the table right now. Do we have a second?
I'll sign that.
Okay, we have a second. Now we have further discussion. And we didn't address if we wanted the applicant to sign that, to match the existing building. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think it's gonna be, extra cost to the applicant, cause he's gonna reuse, and I think aesthetics, it would be nice to have the aesthetics at least on the front of the building, which we didn't really set, it just says match existing building, so it's vague enough that I don't think it's gonna, raise his cost of his project.
Okay,
Any other thoughts?
thoughts?
I mean, it just looks nicer.
Yeah, I think it would look nicer. Okay, so do we want to add that as a supplementary condition?
He did with this motion, right?
yeah,
Oh, you did
So,
add it?
Yeah.
yeah, so with that discussion, I think we could vote.
I'm sorry. Did we have that on the, as a supplementary condition? Did we add that?
it was not added, so
No,
we
I-
just.
Yeah,
Oh,
we just had the first two,
Mhm.
and then we got a second, and so then now we went to discussion, so we want to amend the supplemental conditions.
Correct.
So we need to go back to the motion, or do we have to vote on the motion as it is?
To make it easier, what I would do is vote on the motion, and then if you wanna add this later, so if you wanna vote on the motion and
No, if we vote on the motion, it
Right.
will pass.
so why don't we,
We have to vote the motion down.
why doesn't Mr. Cook amend his motion to add number 3?
I would like to amend my motion to add the applicant shall side the addition to match the existing building.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion with 3 supplementary conditions. Can I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
We do have a second. Any other discussion?
No.
That being said, roll please.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes?
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Mr. Hall. Your motion has, your variance has passed, and staff will get with you on the next steps in the next couple days. And good luck with the expansion.
Could I request $100,000 to get it done? All right.
You can request it, but that's as far as it'll go. Good luck.
All right, thank you all.
I'm glad business is good enough to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most butchers are booked up until January to try to get livestock in.
What's that?
Most butchers are,
Oh, really?
yeah, processing plants, yeah. The local ones are all booked up until January, February timeframe.
Yeah,
So-
glad he's bringing in his own cattle.
So he's had it. That's pretty exciting. Okay, so that would be it as far as our variance applications. Next, we have to approve findings of fact, and I will go ahead and make a motion. Let me make sure I get this in the right order here. Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the findings of fact as discussed for variance VA 20-007, the YMCA signage. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Roll please.
Mr. Howe?
Yes?
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Ms. Rotovac?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer? Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Okay, those motions are, those findings of fact are accepted. I'd like to make a motion to accept the findings of fact for variance 20-009, 133 Annette Drive, as previously discussed. So we have a motion on the floor. Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Riddick?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to accept the findings of fact for variance 20-010, 5305 Mink Street, and as discussed previously. I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Any discussion? Roll, please.
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
Ms. Riddick?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Those findings of fact are accepted, and I make a motion to accept the findings of fact as previously discussed for variance application 20-011, which is 12397 Broad Street. We have a motion on the table. Can I have a second?
Second.
And we have a second and a motion. Any discussion? That being said, roll please.
Ms. Riddick?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
That concludes our findings of fact, as they've all been approved. Next, we can move to the minutes from the June 9th regular meeting, and hopefully everyone had an opportunity to review them. Is there any discussion, addition, deletions, or changes that someone would like to mention?
No.
That being said, can I get a motion to approve them?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll please.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Ms. Riddick?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer?
Thank you. They have been approved. Is there any other business for the board to consider?
No, sir.
That being said, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Just roll, please.
Ms. Riddick?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Lawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the meeting for tonight. Appreciate it.